Hello again, YouTube. My name is Bree, and in today's video, I am once again painting in my sketchbook. And for the topic of conversation, I figured I would do a little 2022 art retrospective and talk about some of my goals for 2023. So, let's start with this piece. Once again, I am painting in my Etchr B5 cold press sketchbook, and I wanted to do something a little whiter, so I decided to bridge the spread there, which actually worked out better than I expected, though it'll be interesting to see if paint shows up through the other pages because of the strings. I don't know yet. And I'm using my Schmincke Watercolor paints, and yeah. So for this particular piece, this is kind of a motif I keep going back to whenever I'm stressed or feeling just like not in control of my situation, and that's like hands grasping a character. It's something I haven't done recently, though maybe I have and I'm just forgetting about it. But basically, and not trying to get too depressing, just explaining the situation, and things are getting better already. My sick kitty had a seizure last week, and then she went blind. So we went through a trying phase of different medications and helping her navigate around the house, or rather the same medication, gabapentin, in different doses, basically to get her to the point where she's being taken care of, but also not completely zonked out, and also, like I said, helping her relearn the house when she can't really see too well. She's not 100% blind, but she's pretty close. So yeah, it has been a trying few weeks, a lot of very low sleep nights, and things are getting better for everyone involved. So yeah, that's just kind of the origin of this little painting here. As usual, it is also a little rushed because, like I said, been a busy couple weeks and an exhausting couple weeks, and I only have so much mental capacity available. I did say I was going to do this retro/goals video next, but I probably shouldn't be because I didn't get to do any of my pre-planning for it. Like I said, been way too busy. Normally I would go through all the pieces I created this year to be able to speak to things a bit more coherently, but I didn't really have the opportunity to do this, so I'm just going to go off the cuff, and if I am completely wrong about something, I'll just throw it in the comments below or in the description. So overall, I guess I'm pretty happy with this year. In terms of art, I created a lot of stuff. If I include all my ink journal doodles and little birds and everything, not really the classwork, because I don't think I wrote down each individual thing I did for some of my classes, but I think it was 175 sketches, drawings, paintings that I created this year, which is a huge number, but a lot of things are really tiny, like the little birds and the ink doodles, and don't take a lot of time. And then yeah, most of my things are like this, where it's just a sketchbook page, and then even my paintings, I've done a lot of ATCs, or artist trading cards, which are just 2.5 by 3.5 inch paintings. So I didn't really create any pieces that I would consider full finished pieces. That's been an ongoing goal of mine for the last several years that I've just never started. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, I think creating a full finished piece is a very nebulous goal that doesn't inspire much. It's also a little too broad, so it's a little overwhelming. I'm trying to narrow that down, and basically what I want is to be able to have a set of pieces that I am proud of, that I can sit there and point to and be like, this is what I like to create, this is what I do as an artist, this is me. And they're pieces that are, for starters, not in a sketchbook, that are complete, and it doesn't have to have a big detailed background or anything, but just feel complete. Even it's not just a character floating in space, and there's some sort of narrative to it. That's what I want. So it doesn't have to be anything grand. I'm not looking to have a wall size oil painting to be this is my masterpiece. It's just I want something that kind of acts as a portfolio to speak to me as an artist, and I don't have that. I have no finished paintings. So one day, hopefully next year I will sort that out and maybe have even just like 5 or 6 pieces that I'm proud of that meet that criteria. And I'll narrow down that criteria as I get closer to it. I've already gotten so off track. I don't remember where I was. So yeah, sketchbooks, lots of sketchbook work. I'm still like, I'm happy with what I've done this year. I just didn't focus goals enough where I actually committed to something like that. I kept saying I would do it. I did like that clarity workshop, and I wanted to build like 5 or 6 pieces after that I felt this way about, but I didn't ever start. So that was a failure. So yeah, just to talk about some of the pieces like off the top of my head that I was really happy with, that I feel led me in a really positive direction. The first one that comes to mind is my piece I did when I first got the A Gallo palette, and that was like a little elf boy monk sitting on a rock holding a bow staff, I believe. And that one was just, first of all, I love those paints, so I think that inspired a lot, but it just felt like there was a piece of narrative. It wasn't an overly complex piece. It didn't have any sort of detailed background, but it was a character. He was grounded in space. There felt like there could be some story there, and I really, really love that one. And I think that like is kind of, it was the first step in a really good direction for me this year. Another one would be more recently the elf boy I painted a couple videos ago, and that just, he had a really good rhythm to his pose. He just had personality. He felt lively to me, and he was just so much fun to paint. I had a blast with that piece, and I really, really liked him. Another one was the first one I did with the Roman Schmal paints, and honestly, the only one I've done with those Roman Schmal paints so far. And she just glowed. Like, she had so much personality and life to her, and I think that's something that when I was just doing portraits, after portraits, they didn't all have life to them, and this one did. And I don't normally draw like happy characters, and those last 2 I mentioned, they were both happy, and it worked. I don't always have to draw like stuff like this. That's a little bit more, as Spoff put it, angsty. Yeah, I'm a little angsty right now. I've had a couple weeks. That's really what comes to mind offhand. I'm sure there's like a bunch of other ones. Had I gone through it, I would have been like, oh yeah, actually this is my favorite piece this year, but that's okay. Those are the ones that come to mind, and I think they're leading me closer to where I want to be, so they're good ones to keep in mind. In terms of ways I derailed myself this year, because I think that's as important to evaluate so I don't make the same missteps next year. And I say derailed, like these are some of the reasons I didn't hit those goals of creating those bigger pieces. I mean, it's all my fault. I'm not trying to offset blame. It's just holes I'm looking to not fall into again next year. One is classes, and there's nothing wrong with classes. Classes are great, but I would take classes or retake classes because friends were taking them, because Justin Donaldson released a new class and I have to take it now because my friends are taking it now, even though they're going to be available again later and I could take them later. But there's something to be said about taking too many classes or taking too much time to study to read as a delaying tactic to actually act on something. Even though you learn, even though you might get a lot out of it, sometimes it's not what you should be doing right at this instant. And I think that's kind of the trap I fell into. I retook the gouache class. It's a great class. It's amazing. But I took it because my friends were taking it and I wanted to take it with them, not because gouache was something I was looking to actively start working in again right at that moment and wanted that refresher at that moment. Similarly, I did the form and rendering class, which was amazing, and I did get a lot out of that, but I did it because it was new and I had to take it right then and there. Granted, I do think I learned a lot and was able to start applying some of those things pretty quickly. In fact, when I did the Bridgman bootcamp, the things I liked most about that was stuff that reinforced what Justin had taught. And honestly, I think having taken the form and rendering class, some of those exercises were a lot easier because I didn't realize how much I learned about like perspective and like rotating 3D objects. So obviously it was very important for me to develop those skills. It just may not have been the right moment to focus on those areas. And if I want to really focus on those areas in my art in the near future, I might still have to go back and refresh because I didn't apply it right away. So timing is important. The other thing I did that really impacted my progress towards that goal of creating larger pieces is I took on too many challenges. And by those, I mean things like Plein Pole and Birdtober, which once again were a great load of fun, but those events, and just to recap real quick, Plein Pole is a challenge by warrior painters where you paint plein air or outside from life every day in the month of April. And then Birdtober is an Inktober, Arttober alternative in October to paint birds. So both of those are great challenges. I did them with friends more or less. I had a lot of fun. I learned a ton. I got so much better at gouache by painting from life with gouache every day. No doubt about it. I've been wanting to get better at plein air or get started with plein air for ages. So it was a kick in the right direction. It just wasn't, it didn't really put me in a place to better hit those goals at the time. Though that one was probably the far more useful one. I had a lot of fun with Birdtober too, but the problem with those challenges is when I do something for 30 or 31 days, it's not just 1 month you lose to those challenges. It's the 2-week art block recovery I have to go through afterwards before I'm really motivated to paint again, because I'm so exhausted from doing that other challenge that there is a recovery period for me. So next year, I'm going to really try not to get sucked into those like little hype things, because unless they directly align with something I'm actively working toward, because otherwise it's really just a distraction, and it might be the right move, the right thing to do in another month or two. But if it's not the right thing right then, I'm going to try to really consciously think through that and avoid falling into those little traps. Because just because something's fun doesn't mean it's going to not burn me out and keep me from working on what I want to be working on. So just some things that I'm trying to keep in mind. Now, the last couple pieces I did, I made a comment about how I was evaluating my baseline, and I didn't quite accomplish what I wanted to do there because, like I said, things got busy and I didn't get to spend as much time on that as I wanted, or get beyond watercolor. I'd wanted to do gouache as well. But basically, my goal there was to take kind of a looser approach to drawing, to painting, to not binding myself to references, which I don't do overly much anyway. Like this one, I did obviously use a reference for the muscle, for the hands. I have like so many pictures of my own hands on my phone right now. I need to go clean up now. But I just am trying to really feel out where I am and how I feel about what I'm creating when I'm not overly planning a piece. That way I can figure out what I want to improve on more easily. So, like I said, I didn't really finish that, but the big takeaways I have at this point in time, there are 3 of them. And the first 2 I think I want to focus on in the first half of the year. One is diversity, and I knew that was an issue for me. My characters are all pale white people because all I have to do is look in the mirror, take a picture of myself, and I can see how light in the environment affects pale skin. It's easy. It's easy to get those reference images. It's not always easy to replicate, but it's also lazy. So I can't easily create characters of other ethnicities from different origins because I don't have that mental library. And so I did do a couple test pieces where I tried to paint people, not like super, like I wasn't saying like I am going to paint a person from this place today. It was just I want to paint someone with darker skin. And I really struggled with it because it's not quite as simple as just changing your palette up. It's about how the light in the environment interacts with different colors. So, and then even just in terms of like bone structure, people from different places have different bone structure. They have different features, and I'm not able to discern that mentally. And actually, and let's see if I left this up on my phone because I am not terribly organized. Where's my Kindle app? I think I closed it. But I came across something in a book that really resonated with me and kind of like, in a way, stated my own fear, and I found it. So this is from the Rivers of London series by Ben Aronovich, and it's a urban fantasy series, but like there's a character who, minor spoiler, I think, can change their appearance. And there was just this comment made that, yeah, I found the quote, but really it was because she hadn't quite got the face right. Lips too thick, nose too wide. He looked like he stepped out of an early Asterix comic. Subconscious racism, I thought. It'll fuck you up every time. And that really was, when I read that, and I apologize for the profanity, I try to avoid cursing on this, and I just read that verbatim. It just, that's my fear when I paint, is I don't want someone to look at a character I created and been like, that's just a stereotype of that person or that culture of, you didn't capture what people actually look like. You captured subconscious racism. So that, by reinforcing my fear, drove me away from wanting to really explore much. But at the same time, I think if I really make that conscious effort to study, that's what I need. So I'm definitely going to try to diversify my work by collecting references of people from different places and really practicing, whether it be like Reddit Gets Drawn or just open libraries or reference packs. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but that's one of my self-study goals for next year. The other one might be a little harder to do self-study because it doesn't interest me as much, and that's clothing. This is like a perfect example. All my characters lately are like in loungewear because that's what I wear. And it's like this character, like, what should he wear? I'm wearing linen pants. I'll put him in linen pants. It's lazy. I'm not a fashion person. I don't really care for fashion at all. So I think I need a little nudge in the right direction to help me get going and maybe develop an interest in something I currently have no interest in. Maybe it won't work out and it'll just always be a struggle for me because it's not something I enjoy. But I want to make that effort to try to get better with clothing, with textile, with fashion, with design, so I can have more interesting characters. The third one, which I'm not going to try to prioritize right away because that's already a lot to focus on, and I don't want it to be so study that I don't create. I just want to have, I want to also be painting for me, not just studying all the time. The other one is lighting, and I want to get better at just creating interesting lighting scenarios. I'm really inspired by one of my friends who goes by Sketchy Finch on Instagram. She has a webcomic. Her name's Grace. She just creates these beautiful, amazing scenes. And it's really helped pique my interest in doing more lighting for myself. So thank you to Grace for inspiring me there. Not to say she's the only artist that does it. It's just seeing her work so often really, really inspires me. So that's something I'll probably save for later in the year and try to get some courses to help me along there, because I think that's something where I would really benefit from taking actual classes versus just trying to self-study on my own. So that's kind of my goals for next year. Create pieces that are outside sketchbooks that feel complete, but also those are the areas I want to study. Now, if that changes, if my interest changes and it makes sense for it to change, it's not just a, ooh, shiny new thing I should go do. Awesome. I'm okay with that. I'm open to it, but that's kind of where I am right now and what I hope to be working on soon. So yeah, that's really all I had for this topic. If you have any interesting goals that you'd like to share in the comments below, I'd love to hear them, and good luck with all your goals going forward. Hope you achieved your goals you had set for yourself this year, if you had any. And here's to the end of another weird year and hoping for a much better year next year, going in with a little bit of trepidation, but hoping for the best. Otherwise, I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye.